understanding the customer journey, right? Those kinds of things. Like I look at skateboarding and jazz, same thing.
Yeah.
Right? They talk about, yes, to be a great salesperson or to be a great entrepreneur, you need to be able to improvise and work well together and, right, risk assessment, all that stuff. And I start looking at it going, jazz musicians do that, right? They link that all the time. Yeah. But you can link jazz and skateboarding together. One of my friends who's an artist is a guy named Ian Johnson. He said that in an article, and I was like, amen, man. Amen, 100%. They're doing risk assessment like on a second per second basis, and it's like breaking a bone versus like, or dying versus, right, do I get the sale or not, right? Like that risk reward becomes like a little bit more heightened, right? But you can make that case that they have to improvise and assess what's going on.
Sure. They
have to practice relentlessly to get these tricks done, right? And sometimes they just want to coast, right? It doesn't have to. Sometimes it's just about the ride, right? Sometimes it's just about the conversation, right? So you start looking at, sometimes it's just about the music, right? You can start making these parallels across these different disciplines. And what makes that idea, because it comes from it was born out of a skateboarding idea, why does it make it less valuable in the business world? It shouldn't.
No.
The idea is the same, right? And that's where the DEI stuff, right? The diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff, I think really comes into play, right? Because part of it is you have to see me and my experience and value it, right? You can't just brush it off for no particular reason, right? Part of it is access. Part of it, there's a lot of reasons for it, but I think that's the beginning. It's opening up the dialogue.
Yeah.
So you can have a conversation and learn, and from there, there's a lot of stuff that interconnects us. There's a lot of stuff that will help propel whatever endeavor that we're doing to the next level, and it might resonate with other people.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes me think of like when we first started talking earlier was you talked about failures and then you talked about like people like Steve Jobs who were like specialists who just kind of like they happen to just be at the right place at the right time, right? But I think for the most part, and this is more of like a recent idea, I think people are starting to realize that most people are tinkerers. Most people are people that, well, not a lot of people want to fail, but most people just dabble at a lot of things, right?
Yeah. I think the difference, and like if you, I don't know if you've ever been in one of those sales offices or any of the offices where they had those old posters, those old motivational posters, right? Yeah. Cat hanging from a tree, Lincoln doing
Passion.
this, right? Yeah. Stuff like that, right? It's pretty funny when you think about it, but like, those principles are like when they talk about Lincoln failed 47 times before he became president.
Right.
He did one good thing, right? Like that, like you look at it, I mean, what I think people are starting to see is you have to build up experience. Yes. You have to try, or else you'll never win. That's what I think one of the big things that's happening. People are starting to say, you know what, I have to try or else I'm never going to do it. They're willing to take that risk. And then they're bundling up their experiences and really looking back and saying, you know what, I can do this. Give me a shot, which people were afraid to do before, right? They were afraid. They were like, because like, I know that in my personal life, in my business life, I've been quiet about certain ideas because I was scared that they wouldn't be implemented or somebody would think that they weren't smart. Right? I know that I've done that, or I've been put down before where it made me not want to share. Right? But I think in those situations, it might have worked out. It might not have, but they didn't even give it a try, or I didn't even offer up the opportunity to make that attempt, right? So when I look at stuff like that, right? I think I see a lot more on LinkedIn. I see a lot more in the business world where it's, I'm here, I've, like, from my experiences, I can do X, Y, and Z, and I'm really good at this, right?
Right. What do you think held you back from speaking up those ideas in your mind?
Like, before, right? A bunch of different things. Fear of looking foolish, right? Resentment. I mean, all kinds of stuff, right? It's the chips that we carry on our shoulders, right? Fear of inadequacy, right? Whatever, like fear of like not measuring up because that guy's right. The Harvard guys are talking, and I'm this dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That kind of idea.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. I know a lot of smart people from a lot of smart places that have graduated with like numerous degrees, and I've talked to lawyers, and like I know there are a lot of good people out there that are brilliant, that have degrees, and I also have met a lot of people that are like brilliant that don't have them, right? And I think part of, like, once again, I didn't have that mentor when I was earlier. Right. I didn't have that internal fortitude that you needed when I was younger to voice those things, to actually go out and say, F it. That's that early drive that I look at a lot of that I respect, that grind. The people are saying, fuck it. I'm going to keep going. Yeah. Right? I don't care what they think, or, right, it doesn't matter what they think. I'm going to keep trying, and then some of them are successful and some of them aren't.
Right. Yeah, I kind of battle with that sometimes too. And maybe this is a crutch, but I'm going to mention it anyway, just to see what you think. I think a lot of that comes from having parents that weren't from here, especially from countries like the Philippines, where when you come to a new country like the United States, you're told to blend in and be respectful and not speak up, and you can't voice out your ideas for fear of exactly what you just said, being looked at as somebody inferior, especially in places where you're trying to prove to yourself. And so growing up in something like that, where I was told to have those same concepts, whereas I look at other people who have had like not a PhD, but a degree, and grew up in, like, I'm going to say it, white family homes. They don't have that barrier of, hey, shut up and just, like, do your thing, you know? Like, I wouldn't say my parents did that for me, but it's just more of, like, I'm just seeing contrasts between, and maybe I'm just generalizing too, but yeah, I would just love to hear your thought on that.
I don't think it's solely based on race. I think, yes, we as first-generation immigrants or second-generation immigrants will have that stigma, right? Because that's the way the situation is. That's why I'm so, I'm happy to see some of the changes in the voices that we're seeing now. And they're speaking up younger and younger, right? Right? Because part of it is you need that kind of, business is tough. Life is tough. You are going to get hurt. You need to have some kind of strength or support system to be able to actually pick yourself back up. And I think part of that thing that your parents and our parents said, don't go down this path that's going to be harder for you, right? I think I don't think they did it because, like, with the malicious intent, or because of, like, external factors. It's because in their nature, they want us to be successful. Right? So they're looking at what's the path of least resistance based upon their experience is what they're giving us, right? And that doesn't necessarily work for everybody, right? So I think the nerdy kid coming from, right, like, I think it could be the person that holds the minority opinion or the minority, like, physical attribute in some aspects, because kids can actually be mean, right? Like, it's the nature of things. Like, right? They're honest to the point of brutality sometimes, right? They don't understand social cues and stuff like that, so it can affect the minority and be the minority, be it the white kid, the Jewish kid, the Latin kid, the black kid, whatever, but that holds the minority opinion, the LGBTQ kid, right? Like, it can affect that minority opinion. It's how do we actually give them a little bit of strength?
Yeah.
Or how can we teach them that strength or show them that strength that it can be done? And I think that's where we're heading now, right? It's access to information. It's access to the people that look like me being successful.
Exactly.
Right? That stuff is going. It's like mentoring programs, right? Access to there's a bunch of different companies that I look at. There's a company that a nonprofit organization called Digital Nest that works with the underserved Latino community in like rural areas. That Watsonville, Gilroy, what do you call it? And they're expanding, and the founder is dope. I got a chance to talk to him about some other stuff, and I want to help in any way I can, be it mentoring or whatever. I just really think he's doing a good thing, and he's giving these kids in a different environment, right? In this agricultural environment, this first generation, second generation environment, the access to these tools and the potential to do something else, right? If they want, right? It's a choice. But if that access wasn't available to them, they no longer have the choice, right? And they see like kind success that empowers people. How do we do that?